Michael Mann is a fascinating director who once gave us an iconic shootout scene that is still considered the best in Hollywood history. Many have tried to copy his style. In the 1990s, every new film by Mann made it onto lists of the best movies, but the 2000s brought a shift, and the director got stuck in a cycle of self-repetition. After trying his hand at biographical cinema in 2001 and failing miserably, Mann decided to return to the crime genre that had once made him famous. The 2004 film Collateral, starring Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, restored faith in the director among both audiences and Hollywood studios. The film's box office success prompted Universal Pictures to invest $90 million in his next project, which, over the course of production, transformed from a merely expensive action film into the most expensive action film in Hollywood history. In 1984, Michael Mann's series Miami Vice had a triumphant debut on American television. Its success was so massive that Don Johnson, who played one of the two lead roles, became the highest-paid actor on television in 1986. He earned $250,000 per episode and over $6 million for an entire season. For comparison, at the time, Tom Cruise was making $2 to $3 million per film. Harrison Ford, being a superstar, was making $5 million, and Kevin Costner was practically working for free. In the US, Miami Vice is one of the most iconic TV shows in history, alongside Friends, Magnum, Star Trek, and Baywatch. It also had the greatest influence on the 80s aesthetic that remains popular today. Michael Mann wanted to turn his series into a full-length film back in the early 1990s. However, Don Johnson wasn't eager to reprise his role, and the production required a massive investment. So, Mann put Miami Vice on hold and focused on other projects. He returned to the idea of a feature film in 2004 while filming Collateral. After a successful collaboration with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, Mann offered them the lead roles in Miami Vice. Both actors agreed, quickly signed contracts, and started working with Mann on the script. However, a few months later, Tom Cruise left the project to work on Mission Impossible 3, which offered him a much bigger paycheck. Jamie Foxx stayed, which later led to some unfortunate consequences. Cruise's departure had almost no effect on the budget of the film. Universal decided not to cut costs, figuring that even if the box office results weren't great, Michael Mann's film would still pay off in the long run, as was usually the case with his projects. While Mann's films did fairly well in theaters, they never became massive hits. However, they consistently gained cult status and made up for it with strong home video sales. The studio expected the same this time, especially since the film was based on an iconic series. Had the director been anyone other than Michael Mann, the studio could have easily cut the budget by a third without affecting the film's quality. But with Mann in charge, that wasn't an option. Some directors love to spend huge amounts of money on films that end up looking cheap. For example, Brian De Palma's Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage had a budget of $73 million, yet Cage spends the entire film running through the same 3 corridors. In comparison, other Cage films like Face Off, The Rock, and Con Air look 5 times more expensive, despite having similar budgets. That doesn't mean Brian De Palma was pocketing money from his films, it's just his approach to filmmaking. Those 3 corridors in Snake Eyes could have been shot on a studio set instead of on location in Atlantic City. The boxing match could have been filmed there too, using 50 extras cleverly positioned to make the arena look full. That's how it's usually done. But De Palma, on the other hand, filmed everything on location. He made a deal with the city's mayor, rented the venues, and brought in tons of equipment. All of this required significantly more money. Michael Mann's films are no different. In Con Air, the airplane interiors were filmed on a studio set. Meanwhile, for Miami Vice, Michael Mann actually took the camera into real planes. And since special effects are for the weak, those planes even took off with the director and actors on board. Heaven forbid the audiences notices a green screen outside the window, but to Mann, this approach made everything look more authentic. That's why Live Free or Die Hard, released around the same time, despite its intense chase scenes and Bruce Willis's hefty paycheck, cost only $110 million. Meanwhile, Michael Mann's Miami Vice, even without Bruce Willis, ended up costing $160 million. Just to be clear, this isn't a critique of these filmmakers' approach. Films shot on location always stand out. They have richer visuals, better sound, and more natural lighting. As long as these movies turn a profit, studios turned a blind eye to the director's extravagance. But when a film flops, studios come down hard on them, as the financial losses are much greater in such cases. The point of this long explanation was to clarify that these directors simply don't like working on studio sets. Anyway, Tom Cruise's departure in pursuit of a bigger paycheck forced Michael Mann to quickly find a replacement, which turned out to be Colin Farrell. Farrell was a rising star at the time, and the studio immediately approved his casting. And since he cost less than Cruz and the studio didn't cut the budget, Michael Mann was rubbing his hands with glee, thinking he could now make the film even bigger and more expensive. The film's problems began just before shooting started, and Jamie Foxx was the cause. When he agreed to star alongside Tom Cruise in 2004, Foxx was already a well-known actor, but not yet a huge star. However, in the spring of 2005, Jamie Foxx won an Oscar for Best Actor for his role in Ray. After that, he demanded a pay increase, wanting his salary to exceed Colin Farrell's. Instead of $3 million, he now wanted $10 million. The studio couldn't afford to lose an actor right before filming, especially after spending millions on preparation and location rentals. But production was still at risk of being disrupted because Universal agreed to raise the film's budget only to $95 million, which wasn't enough to pay Foxx the $10 million he demanded. In the end, Colin Farrell agreed to a pay cut, and $2 million of his $7 million fee went into Jamie Foxx's pocket. But that was just the beginning. Just a couple of weeks into filming, Foxx refused to appear in scenes that were filmed on planes and boats. As a result, Michael Mann had to rewrite the script on the fly. The change in locations immediately caused the film's budget to increase. The filming of Miami Vice took place all over the Caribbean and South America. To save money, the entire crew, including Farrell and Michael Mann, took commercial flights. Jamie Foxx refused to fly with them, so the studio had to provide a private jet for him and his large entourage. By that point, the film's budget had already exceeded $110 million, but Jamie Foxx dealt Miami Vice its biggest blow halfway through production. During filming in the Dominican Republic, the crew heard gunshots near the set. Foxx immediately gathered his team and flew back to the US, refusing to film anywhere outside the country. According to Jamie Foxx, the situation was far more serious than the media portrayed. From his account, it sounded as if bullets were flying over his head, forcing him to take cover and return fire. How many enemies he took down in the shootout remains unknown. Just so no one thinks Jamie Foxx was scared of something like fireworks, it's important to note that in the Dominican Republic, the film crew was guarded by police. In certain areas that Michael Mann chose for filming, he had to deal with various gangs, who were also paid to provide protection. This is a fairly common practice, something even the team behind Double Impact with Jean-Claude Van Damme had to resort to. So, while Jamie Foxx's antics had gradually inflated the budget, his disappearing act completely ruined Miami Vice. Foxx's refusal to film outside the US forced the filmmakers to completely rewrite the script for the final third of the movie. According to rumors, the original ending of Miami Vice was supposed to be filmed in Paraguay. It was meant to be much grander and more dramatic than the rushed version we got. This change affected entire story arcs that had to be cut because they no longer made sense. The film crew hated Jamie Foxx. According to them, Foxx would always arrive late on set, accompanied by his large entourage. Since filming in Miami had to take place during hurricane season, one day a pane of glass fell from a skyscraper near the car where Farrell and Foxx were sitting. After that, Foxx refused to work in windy or rainy conditions. Farrell, unlike Foxx, was praised by everyone. This is despite the fact that he never stopped drinking while working on the film. At the end of each day, he could always be found lying outside his trailer door. Yet, throughout the entire shoot, he was never late and always did everything that was asked of him. Farrell would later regret this behavior and blame himself for the film's failure. According to him, he didn't give his all to the work and was ashamed of it. After Miami Vice, Farrell checked himself into rehab and nearly quit drinking. Many blame Michael Mann for what happened to the film. According to those involved in the production, Mann rewrote the script multiple times a day, and the changes he made were often terrible. However, due to the director's influence at the time, no one dared to point out the problems. In later interviews, Mann agreed with much of the criticism and regretted that the studio hadn't assigned him a supervisor. Without one, he often got distracted, and instead of quickly reacting to production issues, he would buy pirated copies of his own films in Paraguay and celebrate it like a child. By the end of filming, the budget of Miami Vice had reached $140 million. According to unofficial reports from Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter, the film's budget actually exceeded $160 million. Although this record has since been surpassed, in 2006, Miami Vice became the most expensive action film in history. Naturally, all of the film's issues were covered by the press. In 2006, Miami Vice became the favorite punching bag of various publications. As a result, audiences avoided the film, and it predictably flopped at the box office. The film grossed only $153 million worldwide. Universal Pictures lost between $100 million and $150 million on the production of Miami Vice. Given the film's issues, which anyone watching it can spot, there's no talk of long-term profit, which the studio had initially hoped for. Michael Mann never openly criticized Jamie Foxx. According to the director, Jamie is a great actor, and everyone has their quirks, including him. Colin Farrell believes one of the biggest issues with Miami Vice was the wrong tone. When he signed on to the project, he thought the film would be like Lethal Weapon. The original script even had humor, but over time it all disappeared, and we ended up with what we got. As for Michael Mann's career, 3 years after Miami Vice, it took another hit with the failure of Public Enemies. After that, over the next 16 years, the director made only 2 films, Black Hat and Ferrari, the first of which was a box office flop. Michael Mann is now 82 years old and working on a prequel to his most famous film, Heat. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and stay tuned.